Hello, I am Brianna Belke, a sophomore undergraduate student from the University of Mount Union, and with me is Dr. Martin, a professor at the University of Mount Union. It was through Dr. Martin's gender studies class that I had my first encounter with service learning. We had the opportunity to volunteer at an after-school program at our local middle school, teaching a gender studies crash course to the boys and girls of the program. Our program was entitled True Queens, which stood for Tenacious, Respected, United, and Educated Queens of the School System. Each of my peers and I led one of 24 90-minute sessions on various topics such as microaggressions, body image, healthy relationships, and family life. The goal of the project was to teach the students about these crucial issues before they entered high school. We had been approached by the director of the program because there was an issue with girls defining themselves off of what the boys in the middle school wanted. They were engaging in risky behavior. They were doing things that they wouldn't normally do. It was very out of character for them in order to get the attention of males. And this is detrimental in a time of discovering yourself because in middle school it's crucial to outline who you want to be and who you are. And these girls were completely skipping this stage and defining themselves off of the ones of others. So it was up to us to give them the resources and the confidence that they needed to be their true selves and to stop working solely to impress others. We worked one-on-one with the students and formed close bonds with each of them. Though the point of the class was to educate the students of our local middle school, it was my peers and I who learned the most. We reaped all of the benefits of an effective service learning project: empathy, passion, and compassion. One of the main lessons that I learned throughout the project was interacting with a student who was resistant. She would call us names. She would sit in the corner. She did not want to do anything. And we'll call her Jane right now for the sake of anonymity. Jane did not want to be there. It was an after-school program. You could tell she was done with the school day, and she was sick of whatever we had to say. And it wasn't until our lesson on body image that I learned truly why she was so resistant to what we were saying. So Jane did not want to participate yet again. We were drawing the outlines of each other and writing positive words and adjectives to describe each other. And Jane did not want to do this. And so Dr. Martin, in lieu of doing the project, had her write a poem or letter describing her perception of body image. And this is what Jane wrote. Quote, "I don't like my body or me in general because it is annoying. It's weird. I don't like anything. I'm fat, but that's what most girls say. My face is too big and highly annoying. Glasses would do me justice. My thighs, they are too big. The reason I don't like me is because I'm overly annoying. I feel like I bother people. I feel as if I'm overbearing." End quote. Now, I want to be an educator. That is my professional goal. I want to teach in inner city schools. And it was when I was interacting with Jane that I realized that too many students fly under the radar because teachers give up on them. And it would have been very easy to give up on Jane. Jane did not want to participate. She did not like us. And it wasn't until this turning point that we actually saw the humanity in her, and she did help with the program and became one of the leaders of the program. So I think one of the crucial things that I took away from my service learning project was that you need to believe in even the students who don't want to participate, even the students who are resistant, even the students who are mean, because it is these students that can change the world if they're only inspired and if only you push to get that leadership out of them. It is with my experiences in our local middle school in mind that I come to speak to you today about the importance of empowerment in inner city schools, empathetic service learning, and the incorporation of feminism in all forms of learning. Service learning has the power to change the perspectives of students and empower them to change the world. It is through service learning that students become feminists, activists, and compassionate citizens of the world. I am a student from rural school in small town Ohio. Until recently, I, like most people, possessed a lot of implicit biases when it came to inner city schools. I grew up in a school that had a decent amount of money. I had great programs and academic resources. So I obviously viewed inner city schools as lacking, but they aren't. It wasn't until I was placed in a service learning setting that I realized that I still possessed implicit biases. I had signed up for the Teach Grant prior to entering college, which entitles me to a grant, but I have to teach for 4 years in an inner city school. And my family warned me against this. Everyone warned me against this. They said that kids would be unruly to the point of violence and that I would get shot. And I was determined to do it anyways. But still, I had these implicit biases within my mind that I didn't realize. I viewed these kids as violent. I viewed them as they're going to be trouble no matter what. I didn't see the humanity in them. And I think that's one of the big benefits that I had of service learning. Because regular classroom learning does not give you that. I can read all I want about equality and such, and I have, but it wasn't until I was placed in the field and saw these kids and saw them grow that I truly recognized things about myself and worked to fix them. Students of inner city schools are too often viewed as criminals rather than assets, which only succeeds in disempowering youth. This is further emphasized by Carol Dweck's growth mindset theory. Growth mindset is a term often used in reference to brain-based learning. It describes how malleable people's brains are. Dweck's research shows that Native Americans and African Americans are often outperformed by their white peers because of the student's psychology. Minority students are under constant stress due to societal pressures, racial battle fatigue, and stereotypes, and this translates into the classroom, creating a fixed mindset. Teachers must work to tear down these barriers and steer the students towards growth. It is crucial for educators to recognize this theory and take the necessary steps to prevent deficit or fixed mindsets. As Richard Milner states in his book, Start Where You Are, But Don't Stay There, quote, if teachers believe their students will fail and become incarcerated, they likely will treat them in ways that essentially guarantees such an outcome, end quote. Students in urban schools need service learning just as much as students in higher education or rural schools. They need to be inspired. They need to see the purpose and effects of their education. The number one question that students ask is, what does this have to do with real life? And service learning answers this question. It gives students a voice, letting them know that they can truly make change, even if no one has believed in them previously. One of the main things that we did throughout the sessions was we taught about microaggressions, and we equipped the students with a mantra that was, quote, that's a microaggression and that's not okay, end quote. So the students would say these all around the school. So they had no idea what microaggressions are. Most people don't. And we taught them, and then we gave them an immediate response to the problem. And it was amazing to see the students recognize these microaggressions within the hallways. And they would tell students, that's a microaggression and that's not okay. Which would then open up a conversation because the other student would ask, what's a microaggression? What am I doing wrong? And they would see, and it would spread like wildfire around the school. And it was great to see these students actually making change and putting a halt to racism, sexism, bullying, etc. Secondly, it is important to emphasize empathy over sympathy when initiating a service learning project in your classroom. According to research by Ina Seedhaller, certain service learning projects too often only scratch the surface of service. Service learning must go beyond simple volunteering. It must work to create lasting change. Volunteering at a soup kitchen or disseminating a petition is admirable, but it does not inspire empathy within the students. Students might not be personally invested in creating change because they are removed from the situation. It lacks emotion and involvement. It is crucial to craft projects with deeper levels of connection. In order to get these deeper levels of connection, it is important to encourage students to interact with others repeatedly while engaging in service learning. Repeated service learning is crucial in making the experience personal. If you only go once, you're not as likely to see the effects of what you're doing and to make a lasting bond. The goal should be to create a personal experience that can enrich and personalize the learning. One of the reasons that our experience with the middle school was so successful was because we repeatedly visited the students. At least I did. The other students and my peers who did not volunteer every week did not have the transformative experience that I did over those 24 sessions. Fair trade learning should be a core principle of service learning. Students should work with a community to do service rather than doing service upon the community. They must work with others to best help those with a need, rather than the students imposing their own ideals onto the community. Fair trade learning allows students to truly aid their community while also inspiring a passion for service within the student. If students engaged in service learning can easily extricate themselves from the experience, it further dehumanizes those in need. It is unintentional, but students who are not fully invested in the project and working with the community tend to look down on those in need from a place of privilege, which further reinforces the distance within their minds. The students are just casual observers to a situation rather than invested participants in a real-life situation. My experience with my local middle school changed my perception of inner city schools. I was able to recognize all of the negative biases that I possessed within my mind, and I was able to address them and fix them before I entered my work experience, because that is detrimental. I could not have taught within an inner city school if I would have still possessed these prejudices and biases, because it wouldn't have been fair to my students. One of the most life-changing moments for me was when I was interacting with another student. We're going to call her Sarah, for also the sake of anonymity. Sarah was one of my best friends throughout the program. She was the cutest little 7th grader that you could have ever met. And she, on the last day, we had a party. And my peers and I brought food for the students to celebrate because they had gone through the entire program with us, which was 6 weeks long and 24 lessons, so that was a pretty big commitment. And I noticed that Sarah was hoarding food. She had a mound of cookies and everything you can imagine on her plate. And I walked over to talk to her because I was concerned that she wasn't sharing with her peers. And it was after I talked to her that I realized what she went through. Because she wasn't taking all of this food just so that she could indulge in a sweet tooth. Her response was, "My family's eating good tonight." Because she was constantly thinking of others. These students in inner city schools who are stricken with poverty or other issues are battling with school, but they're also constantly thinking of their families and how they can better help them and relieve stress from them. They are some of the most selfless and empathetic people that you will ever meet, and I believe that it is a true shame of society that these kids are often kicked under the radar and not inspired, because these students are not expected to go to college. They're not expected to succeed. But they're some of the brightest people and the sweetest people that I have ever met. Sarah was constantly removing herself from the situation and reflecting on how she could use it to help others. And all of the students did that. These students are not listened to, they are ignored, they are suspended, they are kicked out of schools, and all they're doing is trying to battle problems that most of us don't even face in our adult life. It's these students that need to be inspired and empowered, and they need to be the future leaders of our society, because they might be coming from a place of low privilege, but if we inspire them and help them to overcome their low sense of privilege, then I feel that the world will truly change for the better.
To me, feminism is the philosophy that drives the action to end all forms of oppression. It directly intersects with a culturally sustaining pedagogy. Often, my students ask how they can incorporate service learning into their content areas in order to work for the cause of social justice and/or to engage in a culturally sustaining pedagogy. For example, in the history class, why not work together with in-service teachers and their students to analyze the school's curriculum for its multicultural content and cultural relevancy? In the sciences, why not work again with in-service teachers and their students to analyze the level of food insecurity and work to address these issues through urban farming. I found that feminist service learning pedagogies can be transformational for students. If you create the classroom conditions to change the way students serve toward culturally sustaining and fair trade practices, the service can help dismantle some implicit biases and prejudices. For this to occur, intentional reflection is crucial. How can we reflect on the lesson? How can we change the way we serve? How can we change the way we think? How can we change the world? As a former urban teacher and a current teacher educator, one of my greatest concerns and much of my work, my research, my advocacy is creating equitable educational environments in urban schools. Much of my work is focused on preparing current and future teachers to unlearn the stereotypes about urban schools and the students who attend them. As illustrated by Bree, service learning can help students unlearn biases of which they may not have been aware and have not acknowledged. Through this particular project that Bree shared with you, I learned as a professor that I miss taking an active role within schools. This project has led to a chain reaction, inspiring other projects in the middle school with these same students based on their needs and their desired next steps. I hope to be able to inspire more of my own students to take part in these service learning projects. I also hope to inspire my peers to engage in similar pedagogies, for the returns are immeasurable. The challenge. Education professors often fear giving up control of the classroom, yet they ask for K-12 classrooms to be student-centered. It's a disconnect. So, what does the road ahead look like for the civically engaged feminist pedagogue and teacher educator? We build it as we go. It will not always be smooth, so our work becomes how we navigate the potholes and encourage our students to do the same. Question: how will we encourage our students to engage with their students and communities, utilizing funds of knowledge? Question: how will we utilize feminist service learning pedagogies to dismantle the biases our students hold as they interact within communities? These are our challenges. Thank you.